Hello and welcome to another episode of Looking for Yoda. Today I talked with Phil, a stained glass artist, and we talked about so many things. It's crazy. Really interesting stuff. Not just stained glass, but he's writing a book, a murder mystery. We talked about the songwriting process, making music, eating food, life, death, our time in Greece, and this is somebody that doesn't really play by the rules, and it's a very refreshing interview, and I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm going to ask you, so there's the whole stained glass thing, right? But there's also a lot more to Phil than stained glass, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Right, yeah.
So, but how did you get into stained glass?
Well, I kind of fell into it because I'm a musician too, and that's one of the other things I do. But I was visiting my mom. I spent my adolescence in my dad's English, so I grew up over there in my adolescence, and I was back here visiting my mom in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking down the street, and I heard this Frank Zappa guitar solo blaring out of a window.
Okay.
And I stopped, and I recognized it was the Frank Zappa solo from Zoot Allairs. In the room with the giant sausage, where the torture never stopped. And I stopped and listened to it, and then I realized someone was playing it. I was like, "Fuck, this guy's good." So like after he was done, I was like, "Man, that was great, Zappa." And this voice appeared at this black screen. I couldn't see the guy's face. And he's like, "Hey man, come on in." And I was like, "Why not? I'm 17 years old. I enter strange people's houses."
What are the chances?
I think that's one of the things about being male, or used to feel that way, is safe. You didn't worry about stuff like that. A woman probably would. And I went in, and there's this guy, Joe, was in there, and he was like, "Come on in, man. Oh yeah, And he taught me all this guitar stuff, and he's a musical genius, this guy. And then he made stained glass for a living, and showed me his studio and stuff in the basement. He's got some plywood over a pool table in the basement of this boarding house he lived in, which was over in the Wedge neighborhood. And then when I immigrated back here, as a 19-year-old, I did all these crummy jobs, washed dishes, and then I was going to be a cook and maybe go to chef school, but I couldn't afford that. And I was working as a prep cook and then a line cook at the Black Forest Inn. And
I love Black Forest.
Yeah, Black Forest is great. And worked there and still have friends from those days. And then all the meantime, Joe was hiring me to do work with him on the stained glass. And I was kind of doing it and not really getting paid much or anything. And when I finally just thought, I can't fucking cook another day, I walked off so many jobs. And my references were trash. I used to just fly into this kind of, my mother's got a bad Irish temper and I've inherited that. And I'd fly out into these rages and say, "Fuck you," and walk out, And so one day I thought there's got to be an easier way to make a living. And and this couple, I knew, these two guys had this lovely house over in Kenwood, and they were like, "Phil, we need all this work done." And I went over and worked for them, and I was like, "Wow, I just made $150 in a day." I was like, that seemed like a lot of money in 1983 or 1984 or something, So I sort of thought, wow, I should maybe think about this and develop it. But then I went on and cooked for another couple of years, worked at the Walker Art Center, and then I met a guy called Herb Pillhofer, who was a big deal in the Minneapolis music scene, and I think produced some of Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks, or at least recorded it, Sound 80 him, and it was a big deal, and the Guthries still uses his trumpet call. And he was doing some work with this friend of mine, Peggy Poore, my brother's girlfriend at the time, my older brother Marcus. And she's like, I got this client. He's this cool German guy, and he's really tied in with the music industry, and he might want some stained glass in his house in Kenwood. And I went over and visited her, and I did a couple little repairs for him. And then he sort of said, Phil, I think you're really good at this. I'd like to hire you and put you on payroll and have you do my whole house. And he basically hired me
Wow.
for about 15 grand back then when I was sort of 24 years old in 1984 or whatever it was. And I've never looked back. I've been a stained glass artist ever since. That was enough to set me up and help me establish a business, and then it just rolled from then on. I've had really lean times when I've fallen back on, just when I've been a lazy bastard and just been poor because I haven't gone out and hustled. Luckily I was young enough so that I just sort of weathered it. And then I've just always just done this for a living. There's other things I'm interested in, but this is I was kind of lucky in the fact that I didn't have a lot of options.
Where do they have like some of the best stained glass in the world?
Some of the best stained glass in the world is here in America. Some of the best in the world. And it's made with glass from France and Germany and England. The California stained glass artists are incredible. There's amazing work here because people have the money. Some of the artists are foreign.
Yeah.
Germany's produced some of the best stained glass artists. And England and France have produced a lot too, Poland. But Israel is incredible. God, but the United States has the money and these big locations and things like that. I mean, when you get into airports and different things like that.
It's like some of your work is around Minneapolis or where?
Yeah.
Or other cities? I don't know.
Yeah, no, well, I've got some stuff out in Oakland, but most of my stuff's here in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and I've done work for the public library system. Plymouth Public Library I did, and Linden Hills Public Library. These are public commissions, and then Wayzata Public Library, Mayo Clinic. I got a bunch of stuff down there.
Really?
Yeah, so it's scattered. Those are like public jobs, and then I haven't done a lot of churches. Although I just finished a church in Duluth, Gloria Dei Lutheran Church, which was fun. There was a huge sanctuary window that just got installed. But most of my stuff has been kind of residential work, some high-end, just regular, or restaurants and bars, and just wherever.
Where's your studio?
My studio is in the California building.
Oh.
In Northeast Manhattan.
Oh yes, I think I visited you once.
Yeah.
I think I remember that. And so that's where you do.
Yeah, that's where I fabricate. Yeah.
Fabricate.
Yeah.
So what's involved in fabricating stained glass? Like what's the short version?
You really want to know? Okay. Well, it hasn't changed much in 500 years. First, you make what the Italians call a cartoon, which is first maybe you make a thumbnail, then you make which is a little tiny little sketch, and then you make what's called a cartoon, which is a full scale drawing of the window. And then you make templates from that, or you can lay the glass directly down on the cartoon, depending on if you're using the British or the German method. But you can make templates from the cartoon, and then from those templates you cut the glass and you lay it all out on this full-scale thing. And you can also make a glass easel and use some beeswax and have the actual piece of glass hanging on the glass easel in some light, so you can see the way the values of the glass are. I don't really do it. I've gotten used to the glass I work with. I use a lot of mouth-blown glass from Germany, and I kind of know I can anticipate what it's going to look like. I also kind of like the surprise of what it's going to look like. It always, occasionally things don't go together, but and then you put that down on a big board, and then you remove it. And then you build a right angle and you begin to lead it. You build a right angle of board or metals, lead or zinc. And you start in the corner and you lead out on your cartoon pattern. And then when it's all leaded together, you solder it and then cement it and then install it.
you made me think. It just popped into my head. I was like, have you ever finished like a piece and you're just super psyched, and then you're like, shit, I broke and then broke it or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Does that kind of break your heart? Or
Yeah, it
is
does.
oh,
And
geez.
there's something that all stained glass craftsmen, artists do, and it always happens. I was over in London a couple of years ago and helped the guy set up his studio there. And he emailed me after I got back here, been back here a year, and said, "You never guess what happened to me, Phil." You know, and it's the same thing that happens to everyone. It's like at some point, you finish a piece, you get to the house, and you sort of rest it up into where it's going to be installed. A lot of times it goes in as a secondary glazing behind a piece of double glazing thermal paint, either on the inside or the outside. But even if it's the main glazing, there's a temptation to set it up and kind of lean it against the place it's supposed to be and walk back and fold your arms and admire it. And then you just watch it fall directly onto the floor and just shatter in front of you.
Oh my
It's happened to everyone I know. You do it once, you never do it again.
And what does that feel like?
It feels like you had your heart blown out from inside of you, eaten before you.
Oh man. So, yeah, it's fascinating though. Like stained glass. I mean, I only know it,
Right.
cursory because
Sure.
I've been like in all the cathedrals in
Yeah.
Europe. Those kind of
Right.
things. I've seen stained glass, but is it something that's still in demand, or is
Oh, yeah. No, I think it'll always be in demand.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to, its origins go back to, I think the earliest stained glass pieces are 1300s.
Mm-hmm.
But it solves a few problems in the Middle Ages. One of how to bring light into the cathedral, because they didn't have ways to produce large pieces of float glass like we do today, or even they had rondelles, the bottoms of wine bottles that the Romans would cement in and create a kind of maybe that was even some of the first stained glass. But they depicted these stories. They cut the glass up and they put it into these pictures, or they painted over it and they fired it in kilns, and the colors were almost considered like alchemy. Like the colors were like a very, very heavily guarded secret, and they even have been until quite recently. The cobalt makes the blue, copper makes the green. To make a pink or red, you need gold. Gold needs to be, oxidized with the glass melt. So the colors themselves showed the power of the church, the wealth of the church, the sophistication, the cutting-edge technology of the day. I mean, these were the supreme rulers. These were the fucking Googles of the day. This was the PayPal's corporate headquarters, right?
Mm-hmm.
The church, and then they would use it to depict a biblical story, and also to control working class peasants, not people, but before working class, the peasant population would come in and they were illiterate, they couldn't read or write, but they could see the story, the biblical stories that they couldn't read in the Bible. They could see them depicted in the windows. So it was a great vessel for propaganda. It indoctrinated the peasantry and helped reinforce all of the power and wealth and corruption of the church. So it's had it was an instrument of use, and now it's not. Now it's purely decorative, and we pay homage to that, or we like. It's gone through some lovely evolutions from Italian Renaissance, where they painted a lot of gold on the windows. It's actually silver they painted, but when you fire it, it turns gold looking. And Venetian glass, Murano, and all this stuff. There's some stained glass there, but that's version off a little differently. And then medieval England and France and Germany used a lot, and then it went through a kind of heyday with the British arts and crafts movement, and people like William Morris, and there's kind of a medieval revivalism where they romanticize these tales of Galahad Knights, and that was a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then over in the United States, Tiffany picked it up and ran with it. And before that, Tiffany was actually influenced by a Canadian artist called John Lafarge. John Lafarge invented what we consider like these beautiful American Tiffany windows. And he was a French Canadian, and he lived in the United States, and he invented what's called opal glass. He invented what's called the copper foil method, where instead of doing lead, which is what I still do, which is the old method, but you wrap it in a kind of copper foil, and you can multi-layer the levels of glass. And that's how Tiffany got these sunsets with mountains and shadows of trees and things going back. And John Lafarge invented that. John Lafarge's windows are still around.
Yeah.
And he made them all himself, so there's only about 150 of them.
Really?
And there's one on the workbench down here in Minneapolis at AT a couple of years ago. And the guy just brought it in. He said, "This is from a building. Might have been from. I forget where it's from. Somewhere in Minneapolis. I don't want to say in case I get it wrong, but." He said, "What should I insure it for?" And they said, "Well, you want to start at, $500,000. But I mean, it could easily be worth more than that.
Wow.
A lot more."
Wow.
And people don't know who Lafarge is, but so Tiffany stole Lafarge's recipes for American opal glass. Stole his techniques. He didn't patent any of them. Tiffany just ripped them off.
Yeah.
And then invented the lampshade. Tiffany lampshade with all the scraps from the stained glass windows that Tiffany was making. There was actually a woman who was on the floor of the Tiffany studios, won a competition of how to best use the scraps, and she turned them into a lampshade. So, and
that's where it came. Yeah.
Now those things are incredible in the museums of art. But John Lafarge is really the founder of American stained glass. Tiffany ran with it, and then American stained glass just exploded right around. In the 19th century, and and then into the 20th century, and all the way up to sort of 1920s, from sort of 1890s up to sort of 1920s, and then it peters out, and then stained glass makes another resurgence in the 1970s as a kind of hippie thing, a kind of a
I was
renaissance
just
of the
wondering
crafts.
about that. Yeah.
With the God's eyes, and suddenly every Fern hamburger joint in California has a wacky piece of stained glass in it too. And then it takes off as a hobby thing.
Is what you work alone though, right? You don't work with
Yeah.
you don't have somebody you work with. You work
I've
so
had some apprentices, but yeah.
right. So you must just find yourself in your studio working and just losing yourself. I mean.
Oh yeah.
I mean, zoning out. You can look up and go, "Oh my God, what time is it?"
That happens. I did that Duluth job. I basically made a huge cathedral window that was 25 feet by 18 foot single-handedly in the studio by breaking up into small sections. I was working at least 12 hours every day, sometimes 16. And you do get lost. You need good music, and you need to not mind being by yourself.
Do you feel like something's flowing through you, like the universe, or you like when you're in a zone and you're just kind of like? Because a lot of what I talk to people about is whether or not they feel kind of like a connection with,
Oh yeah.
universe,
Yes.
like what they practice, whether
Yeah.
it be stained,
Right.
working on stained glass. It could be a dancer, a writer,
Right.
a martial artist. It's like, like when you're working, do you feel I'm not saying that's like the divine presence rolling through you or something, but I'm not trying to get all hokey, but
No, well, sometimes you actually feel that, but that's pretty rare. But you do feel, for a start, it's a decorative art, it's a craft. And with that comes a very high level of discipline. I can't just, I suppose you could, but you can't just go in and just start throwing, it's not particularly free in a certain way. It's very regimented. You have to do things in a certain order. You can be as creative as you like
right.
in your designs.
Right.
and your finished product can exemplify that creativity.
Yeah.
But in order to get to it, it's like making a table or something. It's just, you have to like do a joint, and you have to like, make a dovetail, or you have to put a leg on. I actually don't know much about making tables, but there's just a craft. There's just some things you have to do, or the damn thing won't stand up. You put a cup of coffee on it and it flaps.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a certain elements of the craft that everybody has to do, and it's just part of the discipline. So that creates this kind of regimentation, this sort of
Mm-hmm.
order. So you have to follow these steps. So from that point of view, you have to be very disciplined, and it is rewarding because there's a kind of zen in it. You sort of do this,
Exactly.
and then you do that, and then you do this, and then you think, today I will lead. Today I will cut patterns. Today I am cutting big sheets of glass and laying them out. And they're very different tasks, and they all lead to this one whole. But they do create this zone that you get into.
Yeah.
You do feel like you were in your vocation, that you were in your. I love it. I mean, I feel like that's my existence on earth. But I didn't always feel like that. I fucking hated it at first.
So you said there that you, like when you're working, you gotta have some good music on.
Yeah.
Do you find similarities in, like you play music too?
Yeah.
Do you find similarities between the two? Like like that feeling?
Well, to some degree, although I find them to be quite different disciplines. Like the one with music, I feel like the more I forget, the more I kind of find, the more I let go of. But then there comes a time when you have to tighten the bolts and write a chorus and have it stop and just chords, and is it in the right key, and are these where's the refrain, where's the verse, how's it going to begin, end, and middle, where's their middle eight? There is a craft to songwriting, but so there is a similarity there, but I just feel like with music, you could just pick up your guitar and it could just kind of flow right through you, and it just almost write itself. Whereas with glass, I feel like it's much more like, it's like metalwork or something. It's like, it's not gonna, it takes so much to birth it,
But it's still,
Yeah.
But it's still just as artistic,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
What do you say? I mean, I guess it's hard to compare arts.
Yeah.
Things like stained glass, music, writing, movies.
Well, I'm a writer too, and I'm writing a book right now. And that's a whole different thing.
What are you writing about?
I'm writing a murder mystery novel. It happens in Northfield in the Arboretum.
Really?
It's called Dead in the Wood.
I've been in that arboretum. I've been in various altered states in that arboretum.
It's about a guy who gets accidentally shot by a bow hunter, who is actually trying to kill someone, but he's not trying to kill the guy who he kills.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
It's going to be good.
So when you're writing, is it the same thing where you just kind of get lost?
Yeah. I think the more craftsman-like you can be with these things, and the more you can know your craft, and the more disciplined you can be in not settling. And that's actually where the stained glass has helped me with music and writing.
Mm-hmm.
Is because there is a tendency for people to think, I've been creative. That in itself is good enough. But it's not good enough. You have to know how to present it to the world. It has to, it's no fucking good if they can't read it because the punctuation's all wrong, or the paragraphs, and, unless you really are James Joyce or Faulkner, which most people aren't. And anyway, those guys could write it perfectly. They choose not to. That's different. It's Jimi Hendrix deciding to break the rules once he knows them.
Would you say James Joyce is the Jimi Hendrix of writers?
I would say he's right. I would actually.
Who are you mentioned Joyce, like other writers that you?
Oh, I love Joyce, Dylan Thomas. Alice Monroe. There's just so many good writers.
I do know that it seems like most great writers, the one thing that they do consistently is they write every day. They,
Yes.
they take the time, they write, even if it's just crap.
Yes.
I'm thinking of like Ernest Hemingway. I'm thinking of like Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
You know, they just write, and
Yeah.
it may, you know, it's
Yeah.
the process of just
Yes.
doing it all the time.
Yeah.
That's so
And
important.
That's so important, and that's what I hadn't been doing with my book for a while. I'm doing it now. I get up and I put in 2 or 3 hours, sometimes 4, like right away,
Mhm.
from like 6 to 10, and that's so important.
Are you writing it like on a computer, or what are you writing it on?
I write on a computer, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people who hate that, but I
and,
like it.
and this is a computer. This is the question I always ask people that are writing on a computer, especially writing a book. You do back up your computer, right?
Well, if you use Google Drive,
It's out in the cloud.
it
Okay.
backs it up.
Good.
Yeah.
See,
You know-
okay, people. Yeah.
You could get struck by lightning, and the nuclear holocaust could go off. And
Yeah.
Google Drive will still have it.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
you know,
No, that's good.
hopefully.
But I remember, God, this is like late '90s. This guy came, this English professor at this school that I was working at. He comes running up to me, and he's like, "My computer died." You know, it's some old,
Yeah.
really old computer, and I knew that for 12 years, I mean, since almost the birth of the computer
Right.
practically, for like 12 straight years, he'd been working on
Oh my
his
God.
great novel.
Yeah.
And so I went over and I looked
Whoa.
at it. I looked at his computer. He didn't have any backup. It was all there.
Oh my God.
And I had to stick a floppy disk in and do a bunch of like stuff, and got the computer back, and
You
got
did?
got his novel back. I mean,
Whoa.
but that, from that moment on, I was just like, every time I hear somebody's like writing on a computer, I'm like, oh yeah,
No, that's why I
Yeah.
use the Drive,
Yeah.
because it's because
yeah,
I mean, that's so important.
yeah.
And yeah, but I like to create on the computer. A lot of people don't. I was dyslexic, so my writing's almost illegible.
Really.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I can't even read it.
I
I,
write-
can't even read mine.
You know, I can barely write by hand anymore. Like I do, but it's almost arduous. It's like, oh, really? You know, and it's all block letters and stuff like this. And I'm like, because I'm just used to like tapping it out, writing it out. And now, I can just speak it. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Writing by hand is kind of one of those
Actually,
lost art
yeah.
forms.
I mean,
I don't think I could do cursive anymore.
I can still do the cursive, but the trouble is I write so quickly when I do that, and it's so sloppy, and then I can't remember half of it.
Yeah.
Whereas on the computer, I write really quickly too, but then it's really easy to go back and organize.
Mhm.
You look and you're like, what the hell is that word? Okay, that word has to be either apricot or apprehension. I mean, in context will dictate it really quick, but it's not. It's not difficult.
Okay, so you write music, stained glass. What else?
That's
That the trifecta?
that's the trident. Yeah. No, I do some photography too,
Mhm.
but that's about it. Yeah. And I love to collect old furniture and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, okay.
I like that box I found down there in San Francisco at the Salvation Army for $30.
Really?
That's like Art Nouveau. That thing is like,
That's really cool.
it's rare.
Really
I don't.
cool.
It's probably worth hundreds of dollars. I can't even believe. Some fucking idiot must have thrown it out. They had no idea what it was. I was walking out of the store with it. People were trying to buy it off me as I went down the sidewalk.
That is cool.
Mm.
Can I get some water?
Yes.
Water. We'll keep rolling.
We can always edit it.
Yeah. Oh. Might as well do a little. Like thank you. You feel like you're a spiritual man, philosophical man, spiritual. I mean.
Oh, I write poetry too. That's
Oh.
right. That's right. But philosophical, spiritual. I don't know.
Do you contemplate, like, why the fuck we're here? Why do you think we're here?
Well, I don't know why we're here, but I do know that we are here. And I do know that there seems to be a lot of other things here too, like 14 billion years worth of them expanding in some kind of direction. And I was amazed when they discovered that when they put the Hubble telescope up there, they were like, maybe we'll find other galaxies, and there were so many galaxies they could barely see anything. But the universe is, I think, more like Carl Sagan said, that it's almost illogical to think that the universe isn't teeming with life. No, it is possible that it's not, and that we're the first. Something has to be the first. We could be the first. We are here, and if there isn't anything else, we could be the first. But I imagine there's probably life all over the fucking universe, everywhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's taking a look at us, whatever life it is, if it's as advanced or more advanced than us, it would have to have gone through an evolution of thermodynamics, of Newtonian and Einstein's laws and principles of physics. It would have to know all the rational things that we know in order to create the technology to be able to understand that we are here and to be able to some way spy on us or communicate with us. So therefore, there would have to be a certain amount of rationality in their evolution, even if it looks very different, feels very different. It would have to have undergone that kind of thing, unless and so I think the universe is teeming with life, and I think that they're probably pretty aware of us. Maybe not, but probably. And
well, perhaps they're so far, like a million years ahead of us, advanced, that they don't even, like, to us. I mean, it's like an ant on the ground. And they don't even.
And that's like very possible as well. That's very possible.
Yeah,
but we should. Our evolution should be such that we realize that an ant on the ground is sacred. I mean, if we could evolve to that point, then we could be like less afraid of anyone who's evolved to the point you suggested. I mean, I do think that I don't even like to kill bugs because I look at them and I think, I don't know what their place in the universe is.
Are you vegetarian?
No. I'm not.
You will eat a good steak.
I will, but I object to I'm a hypocrite because I object to the wholesale slaughter of these animals and the way that they're treated. And I'm kind of a meat avoider. I will eat a steak and I eat chicken, fish and stuff, but I don't feel great about it. And I could imagine a time when I wouldn't. And I think it would probably be good for the planet if everyone didn't. So I live in a kind of hypocritical state. How about you?
I think we all do.
Well,
to a certain extent, sorry.
Are you a vegetarian?
No, but I'm pretty much plant-based. I love the stuff you get at the farmer's market, fresh vegetables.
Right.
I'm real big fan of the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
If you look at the Mediterranean diet or the Mediterranean lifestyle, it doesn't really include a lot of meat. It's more like they'll have like fish and the meat will be a small portion maybe, but it's mostly like the vegetables and depending on where you are, it would be some kind of a grain like spaghetti or.
I could imagine. I spent a lot of time, or spent some time in Crete and Greece, and I could imagine even a few sardines, a few olives, a bit of bread, maybe some goat's cheese. Goat's
nice Retsina.
Yeah, some good wine, and just and smaller portions and just eating like that. I think the way that we eat, and the health. The kind of sugar, fat, salt conglomerate, it's kind of a powerhouse, kind of a multinational powerhouse is sort of ramming this stuff into everyone. I think that is like, I think that's got to to just destroy people and just
Yeah.
to destroy the planet.
I do like that idea though of the way you described it, and I often imagine later in life at some point
Yeah.
being on a Greek island,
Yeah.
whitewashed little tiny apartment like
Yeah.
up on the hill, and you just kind of wander down the hill and you
Yeah.
visit the fish market. You get a little bit of fish, you go get some vegetables, you get your bottle of wine,
Right.
you go up, you're on your patio by the sea, and you're just having, like you said, like some olives,
Yeah.
little feta cheese, and piece of,
Those
some
big,
bread.
beautiful sardines they get. They're
Yes.
lovely.
Yeah.
You know, and you look at the women in Crete, and they're all old. They're all like, you know, over 100, a lot of them, and they're beautiful. They have lovely dispositions, and physically they're just amazing. Their skin and their eyes, and they're so healthy, and
Yeah.
and they just seem to have that life force, and you know, the men too. But I was always so impressed with that when I was in Crete, and just that.
Yeah.
You know, and I was meeting these women. You know, this was like in the 80s, 90s. I was meeting these women who had seen the entire villages burned down by the Nazis in World War II.
Right.
You know, and they were young women. So when I was talking to them, they were in their 90s.
Yeah.
Or some of them were over 100. And they were full of life. Going up the mountain on the back of a donkey. With their son pulling them. And, you know, their husbands are all gone. Their husbands all got killed.
One of my first crushes, like this was in the 70s, like I must have been 16 or so. No, I think I was 17, maybe 18. I was in Crete. It's funny you mentioned
Right.
Crete because we were in Crete
What
for
part of it?
all over,
Yeah.
all over. And we were there for about a month. And I went on a date with this Greek girl. Her name was Sophia. And one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And we went to see that movie. You remember Blue Lagoon?
Blue Lagoon, I remember. Oh my God.
We went to
Wow.
Blue Lagoon, but I think it was like her older sister or somebody, or her
Chaperone.
aunt, chaperoned
Oh,
us.
yeah, that's what I
And
was
we were
gonna say.
and we were sitting in the theater, and we're watching Blue Lagoon, but all the Greeks are just sitting around smoking
Yeah.
and kind of talking during the movie and
Their
everything,
beads and,
and there's smoke all
Yeah,
over,
yeah.
and then we went back, and you know, I don't even think I kissed her, but you know, and then I lost track of her, and it's just
Huh.
like, but yeah.
But the chaperone thing, that traditional Greek way of being,
Mm-hmm.
that was in existence right up until like I remember it well because I went to Crete like in '98,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly young Greek women were at the taverna, they were lying on the beach. It was completely different. Everything had changed.
Mhm.
I mean, if you know, I was just showing you at a time, but if you walked into a Greek cafe like she did, it's still all men, and they look at you like, what the fuck? You know, when she walked, I think even that's changed now. But for a long time, right up until the millennium, the Greeks were like incredibly traditional,
Mhm.
and you didn't mess with their, or you know, I remember this old lady bringing me wine and lemons, and fish wrapped up in newspaper, and olive oil. And she brought up and she said, "You are a good boy." And I was like, she said, "I see them, all the tourists down in the tavern every night, and you were up here reading your books." She didn't know I was down at the tavern a lot more than she thought, but I didn't spend every
Yeah.
evening down there.
Yeah.
And they just love that. You know, they're not in the tavern all the time. The tourists are.
Yeah.
They're very sober.
Did you visit other places in Greece?
Athens.
Yeah.
But no, I always liked Crete. I've been back there 3 or 4 times, and I just love it. It's very touristic now, but I still love it. It's still great. But Athens is amazing too.
Mhm.
Certainly Plaka, and going up to see the Parthenon,
Mhm.
and the museum of the Cyclone Island. You know, oh my God,
I love traveling.
yeah.
Traveling for me, I mean, it's one of those experiences like we were talking about with music or writing. For me, like just traveling it's almost like a Zen
Oh.
moment. You know, it's so Zen just because you kind of keep moving,
Right.
you know, and then you have these little oases, where you're
Oasis.
just sitting outside a
Yeah.
cafe, you're having your espresso, and it's like, I'm just thinking about it right now. It fills me like almost like I'm taking the biggest, deepest breath in the world, and I'm like, it's like, oh my God, you know.
I absolutely know. And these cultures, these ancient cultures,
Yeah.
the Minoan culture in Crete is thought to be something that Plato visited. You know, and the lost city of Atlantis, they think it's the middle of Santorini that plummeted into the thing and caused this tidal wave that eradicated that Minoan culture, of which there are still frescoes and jewelry and incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. I mean, just unbelievable. We're talking, so that Mediterranean basin, there's a lot of emphasis put on Egypt, quite rightly, but the Minoan culture, Crete, all these different things that were going on at the same time. They were highly evolved civilizations, and this was before ancient Greece. This was before the Egyptians. This was a long time ago.
Is this like Homeric or
It's
before?
before that. It's the Minoans, and then they were actually matriarchal culture. They were women dominated. They were said to be a kind of paradise. And Plato's said to have visited the last outpost of it, which is supposed to be Crete. And on Crete, you can see where the island has been rocked by this tidal wave that came from Santorini when the volcano erupted. Whether or not it was Atlantis, I don't know. But it certainly was Santorini. And when the volcano erupted, there was a tidal wave, and you can see on the cliffs of Crete the watermark where the island literally was rocked off its axis. And Plato visited that island in ancient Greece, and it was the last outpost then of what he considered as sort of this kind of culture of paradise. People just sort of fishing and fornicating and making music and not hedonistic, but very, very beautiful and in balance, and everything, whatever. But there's something of that I sense when I'm certainly in Crete and on the Greek islands.
No.
My hippie
What was your connection to you mentioned it early on, your connection to the UK again was, say that.
My dad is English.
Your dad's English, and so you've lived in England.
I was born in Britain and grew up there until I was 6. And then we moved here. It's the southeast of this neighborhood. Went to Marcy and stuff until I was 10. And then went back there until I was 12. And came back here until I was 15.
Yeah.
And then went back there until I was 20.
What was that like, doing the ping pong thing?
It was weird. It's like you go from America, sort of going to school wearing your clothes, going, "Hey Jim," to your teacher, to going, just blazer and tie, and yes, Mr. Nicholson, yes, Miss Brown, no, thank you, yes, please, it's fucking regimented.
Yeah.
English parochial shite.
You didn't like it?
No, I couldn't stand it.
Really? You like it better here?
Oh,
Or- I mean,
there's-
it's so different.
There's strengths in both of them.
Yeah.
Sometimes the American system would be so loose that it kind of lost people. And sometimes the English system would be so strict it just fucking broke people. And then sometimes the American system, the teachers were kind of your pals. So the kids sort of became your enemies. And kids here sort of lorded it over each other and were popular and oppressed each other with sports and cheerleaders. And there's kind of an American self-imposed kind of almost a kind of fascism.
Yeah.
It exists in a kind of American high school environment that I couldn't stand.
Yeah.
Whereas in England, everyone's subjected to the rules and regulations. So your common enemy is the teacher.
Right.
So your fellow pupils aren't a problem. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Whereas here you're oppressed by your fellow pupils, and there you're oppressed by the institution.
Right.
And so there's something.
It's an interesting way to.
It's very different.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, ultimately in the American system, you're freer. You're more like Lord of the Flies. It's like you're,
I like that analogy.
you're sorting it out yourselves.
Yeah.
But there's cruelty there, real malice.
Yeah.
People, the stuff I saw in American high school was just fucking nastiness beyond belief. It's real nastiness.
Yeah.
I used to just feel so sorry for people. And I feel sorry for myself sometimes too. So the British system is just kind of like more like Pink Floyd, like, "Oh, you think you're a poet, you nasty little peon." You know, it's more like, the hierarchy.
No, that is the system that gave us the empire.
Yes, that's an empirical. It's yeah. I mean, that is the system of oppression and authority, and there's no doubt that the American system ultimately is much freer. And but being a young kid,
Yeah.
the English system's pretty easy because you just put on the uniform, you just go along, and everyone's sort of relatively in the same boat. Whereas in the American system, you kind of have to reinvent yourself pretty quickly.
Right.
There's a pressure to do that.
Right.
It's just two different things.
I was going to ask you moments of Zen. Well, going back to the Zen stuff. What things? Where do you find your bliss? Like, where do you blow your mind?
Oh, God, I don't know. Nature, I think, or sitting around playing my guitar. It's very peaceful for me. I find a lot of solace, in my relationship with my wife, good art and literature.
Mm-hmm.
And having a drink with good friends,
Yeah.
just sitting around sharing conversation and camaraderie. Good food, obviously, but like you, I find that nothing really delivers like traveling, like going to a new place and walking down the street. I tend to be a bit of a Europhile, so I tend to just kind of go to Europe over and over.
Guilty.
But still, I love that feeling of just being out of context and just, everyone's speaking Spanish or something, and that to me is like, you're walking through some food market and there's dangling, fish and cheeses and spice, whatever. I love that.
I love that sense of wonder. It's
Yeah.
like wherever you go, as long as you
Yeah.
keep moving.
Yeah.
If you stay in one
Yeah.
place for too long,
Yeah.
that sense of wonder
Yeah.
kind of goes away.
Yeah.
I found, but that sense of wonder, because you're in a new place, like, I've never been to Berlin, and now I'm walking around Berlin. It's like,
Right.
whoa, this is awesome. And then, like I said, if you stay too long,
Yeah. It
But-
all becomes,
I'm one of these people that, like, when I travel someplace, I like to be there for like at least 3 weeks, and I immediately want to make myself like a local.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I find the places, and then within like 2 or 3 days,
Yeah.
I start looking at other Americans, going like, tourists.
You develop a little routine. You find yourself going to the same coffee shop. Yeah, right. And you're already looking down. I remember looking out of this apartment building in Paris. I was there for 6 months this time, and I looked out the building, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, or maybe 1. It was after the pubs and the bars, the bars that go in there are all closed. And there was this American girl with a backpack standing out on the sidewalk, yelling at there's a little crepe stand that was still open selling crepes. She was going, "I don't know what part of, sort of ham and cheese you don't understand." She was just screaming at this guy. And I just thought, we were having a very different experience. And I actually went down and intervened and, used my very limited French to order, whatever it was, fromage, jambon, croissant, crepe or whatever it was. And she thanked me and she said, "I love Paris, but there's just too many goddamn Frenchmen here, And
I meet so many Americans that just seem put off by the French, and I'm like, I don't I don't understand. Maybe it's because I lived there for so many years.
What about anyone who's not like them? They go to other places quite often.
Yeah.
And we want people, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure Trump throws a fucking hissy fit when he goes someplace they don't have little towelettes for him to fucking wipe his arse with or something.
I know, exactly. Oh, there's an image.
Not a pleasant one. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
That one out.
Yeah. I think about like meaning and like, you know, not like necessarily the meaning of life, but just finding meaning. For me, I find that I keep coming back to this through travel and music, and that's where I really feel like I find my happiness. You know, those things.
Well, there's that whole Joseph Campbell thing I love, you know, about follow your bliss. And I remember Bill Moore was interviewing him, said, if I follow my bliss, where will I end up at? And he says, at your bliss. You know, and I love that idea of just, you know, like I've never really played by the rules. I've always been quite selfish in that way, and I've always pretty much done what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never really cared. You know, and I didn't finish high school. I didn't even finish 9th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I was a dropout. I went to work and did this and did that and done tons of shitty jobs. But I've always done what I wanted to, when I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always imagined an older Phil, maybe me now,
Yeah.
looking back on my sort of 19 or 20 or 22-year-old or 30-year-old self, going, that's okay, it's all right, you're good, you can just, you know, don't worry. One day this will all fucking make sense, you know, you'll be okay, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, I always felt like there was always that me looking down on me from the future, saying, this isn't gonna last, and even if these people think you're a fuck up, it's okay. In the grand scheme of things, this is little life, and you'll be glad you did this. You know, and so I'm like, thanks, okay, I got permission now, I can tell them to fuck off and walk off this job. You know, and I've never regretted it. I've always done what I wanted to do. I feel like I've always been lucky in that regard.
That's awesome. But does it change being in a relationship? Like, I'm back to being single, so, you know, I can do whatever the fuck I want.
No, it does, being in a relationship, you know, and it's not that kind of freedom I'm talking about. It's not the freedom to stay up all night, although, if you want to do that, you should do that too. I mean, I've done plenty of that. But it's more like, you know, well, you choose to be in a relationship, so that's what you're decided to do.
Do we choose? Do we really choose?
I think so. I think so.
Sometimes I think those things choose us.
I feel like I choose it. I feel like I do.
Okay.
I mean, if I wasn't happy, I wouldn't be in it. I can tell you that. And, you know, and there's been plenty I haven't been happy in, but I haven't gotten out of quick enough, or I wait till they throw me over, or however it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think human companionship and loneliness is a great motivating factor. Loneliness is the great disease of the 21st century.
Well, how do you feel? How old are you?
55.
You're 55 and I'm 56. So contemporaries. How does it feel? Like, I've always gotten pissed off when people are like, they use the O word around me. They call, you know, they say, old or older, getting old, or like they talk this way, and I'm like, fuck that. I'm not getting old. I mean, I don't even use that word. If you use the word, you are old. You know this kind of thing. But how do you see the second half of your life? You know.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think we're luckier than ever.
Yeah.
Being old is easier than it's ever been. Older people have never been so young.
Yeah.
And then I think, well, maybe they've always thought that. But then it's always been true too. So you know, so you know,
I love this.
You know, every generation gets the benefit of a little more science, a little more fluoride in the water, or something. You know? Or the detriment of it. But I think that the people are living longer. They are healthier. They are happier. Certainly, 75 now is not what it was when we were kids, you know, and it's not just because we were younger. 75-year-old, you see them in films. You see people's, you know, I watched the Andy Griffith show. Him and Barney are 35 years fucking old. You know, they seem like they're 50 to me, or at least 47.
Yeah.
They don't look 35.
Yeah.
So people
Yeah.
are younger than ever before. They're living longer. They're healthier, even though for a Western democracy, of our wealth, we shouldn't have the infant mortality. And there are problems. There are man-made problems, but there are also man-made solutions, and I believe genuinely that people are a little wealthier than they've ever been. They're living a bit longer, and that everything is just a little better. And I just based on what my dad told me his childhood was like, or
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
or just you just go back and people have so much now. They have it at the expense probably of exploited third world labor, and there's all kinds of other things that are problems we talk about too. But
Well, and you have a couple of European males talking about this.
yeah.
Who takes us seriously?
Yeah. Well, even just even just our ability to travel, or your average person now
Yeah.
flies, and they don't have to be the sons and daughters of doctors and lawyers. Your average person, I run into some guys, working class guys. He's like, my daughter's studying in Munich this summer, And that's a different fucking world.
Yeah.
My dad said he ate out once when he was a kid, and it was at the counter in Woolworths.
Yeah.
And I know that when we came to America in 1969, the plane fare that he had to sell his house to get the plane fare.
Mm-hmm.
The prices of the plane tickets were about the same as they are now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we've gone from like, and people say I miss the luxurious way that travel used to be in the sky, because it used to be something that only the privileged classes could do. Travel is more proletariat. More people travel than ever before. The skies are polluted because of it. Everything's better, but the problems that they create makes everything worse. On balance, everything's just different. And we're getting back to the Zen thing, where I remember Buddha said the only thing you can rely on in this life is that everything will always change. And that's pretty much my
It's the impermanence of
Everything.
existence. Yeah.
Everything will always change. Everything. You look around, things seem so permanent, but everything will always change and does always change. And that I always remember the Tao Te Ching or one of these books. They talk about the branches on the trees. The limber branch and the brittle branch, and the limber branch that bends with the wind, which can sometimes appear to be weakness. Lives the next day, but the brittle branch breaks off and is dead. So I try and stay limber. And as far as being old, fuck that. Old. You can call me old. You can call me young. You can call me anything you want. Call me motherfucker. But as long as I'm limber in my own soul and in my own body to do the things I need to do, I think body's important too. I think you need to exercise and stay healthy. I hope to bend in that wind of existence and time and not break.
But then, when it all comes to a close, what do you imagine? You're just dead, and that's it. What do you imagine about dying?
I have some very strong thoughts about that. I feel that that there is no death in the way that we think about it.
Okay.
That there is simply just an undetectable sense of animation. For instance, right now, I'm a cosmos unto myself.
Right.
My heart, my brain, my blood vessels. There's a whole fucking cosmos going on.
All these atoms vibrating.
I am a galaxy. You are a galaxy. We are similar enough galaxies that we're a species.
And we can have a conversation.
Yes, and we can do this interview. Outside of us, there's a chimpanzee and there's a dog. And they're just similar that they fall into a subsect of, mammals. And then there are birds. And then there's life. And then there's plant life. And then there's things like rocks, right? Well, I believe that when you die, you simply you simply sort of relinquish being overlord of this universe dies.
Mm-hmm.
My galaxy, Phil, dies. But none of this stuff is going anywhere. I mean, this is atomic matter. This is you know, there's the atomic structure, there's a molecular structure, there's a cellular structure. The cellular structure may cease to be a cooperating, cohesive universe, but the fucking molecular structure and the atomic structure, they're still they're becoming other parts of other things.
Well,
and everything.
Matter can neither be created nor destroyed. So this has always existed and
Exactly.
always
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
That's the way. Yeah, it's. Yeah.
My death is not as bizarre as my life. The fact that I exist is much more improbable than the fact that I would be dead. And the fact that I exist is also way shorter than my other existence, which has been
in other forms.
various different molecular and atomic structures.
Yeah.
That may or may not be
Yeah.
part of a bigger consciousness.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say they're not. And and if you call that God, you can call it God, or you can call it a harmony of all things, or you can call it a propensity towards order, or you can call it an intelligence that has created us. But we are a product of it rather than it being you know what I mean? It created us.
Yeah.
So.
But does it ever bother you? Like for me, I understand. I completely.
Yeah.
I'm at one with you here on this conversation. But something about not being able to have these conversations, not being able to travel, not being able to. It bothers me.
Oh.
Like, oh fuck.
No. It bothers you now because you have it. But when you don't have it, it won't bother you.
Well, Pusa, she told me, she's like, well, when you're dead, you won't know you're dead, so it doesn't matter. So what are you worried about it for? And I'm like, just
and
something.
even if you
something.
do know you're dead, I had a near-death experience.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you? Well, I'd be interested. I mean, what happened to me is I dreamt that I won't go into it too much, but basically I dreamt that I was drowning.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I nearly did drown, and I was with a group of friends, and we all horsed around, and I got pinned to the bottom of Lake Cedar with like 4 or 5 bodies on top of me. And I was like 13 years old, and I was looking up at the water, and I was like, oh, they should be getting off me now. And then I realized, like, I've got the weight of like 4 people on top of me. We were playing that game chicken where someone's on your shoulders.
Okay.
And then, so the other team fell on top of me, and then I had someone on my shoulders, and as they fell, they tightened their grip around my neck, and then the other 2 people fell on top of me. So someone was pinned to the bottom of Lake Cedar with someone's legs tightly around my neck and 2 other full bodies on top of me. And I was just looking up and I was panicking. I thought, and I kept thinking, I could fucking die this way. And then I was like, what do you mean you could die? I was like, you're fucking dying now. This is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna die today.
Yeah.
You're gonna die right now. This is your death. And I knew at that moment that I was going to be okay, that everything was good, that I was moving into a different order, that there was a higher order in the universe of some kind. And the only grief I felt was that the people who I was leaving behind would not understand what I now do understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I was accepting it. I was accepting it. And then out of nowhere, this surge of energy came through me, and I kind of went, and I literally lifted these 2 bodies, and this guy's legs came off me, and I lifted these 2, and I went just up to the surface, grabbed a breath of air, and went back down again. And then people started to sort of disentangle, and I survived it. But I feel like since that moment, I felt like, no, this is not all there is. I felt like this was like.
It's kind of like you gain something. See, I've almost died twice, And part of me kind of just goes back to the same old.
And what happened
the
to you?
same old.
What did you have?
Well, in 2008, I had 2 strokes,
Okay.
and
Wow.
the second one almost killed me.
Wow.
So I have a stent in my neck here, in the artery,
Yeah.
and that was really fucked up. And I convalesced at home for about a month, and you know, within a couple of weeks, I was just sitting on the porch, drinking beer, just going back to normal life,
Right.
and it didn't really hit me.
No.
You know that, God, you almost died.
No.
And
But maybe you didn't have time to. No. Well.
it was crazy. The first stroke I had was really progressive, and they sent me home after about a week, and then I had the second stroke, and that's where I really thought I was going to die, you know, and they're intubating me, and I'm there, and I'm looking up at this doctor, and I'm trying to say, like, why, you know, and it sounds like I'm saying, wine.
Yeah.
And then I go out, and 18 hours later, I wake up in ICU, and, you know, strapped down with the tube down the
Right,
throat.
yeah.
It was insane. The only thing
There was no revelation, no spirit, but that's okay.
No, it wasn't. But all I did was just kind of redouble my efforts to be as healthy and exercise as possible. And then 3 years ago, I had pressure in my back and my chest, and I went in and they did an angiogram, and they discovered that my main artery was 90% blocked. And so they put a stent in there too. And I came out of that just thinking, like, so I didn't, it's not like, you know, they found it right before I had a heart attack. So, but it just, it's weird because I almost died those 2 times, and yet, so I'm not sure I really gained anything, but it taught me that no matter what you do, you can try to be the healthiest, all this kind of stuff, be Mr. Zen and everything. The universe might just have a different plan, you know, like, today's your day. It seems so random, even though, you know, it's not really. It's just, I don't know. Well, it's crazy to almost die, and it gets me back to the thing, like, I just feel like I'm gonna have a little bit of a, like, I kind of can't get that out of my head. Like, oh shit, there's all these things I want to go. I want to go to Thailand. I want to go here. I want to go there. You know, all these things I want to do. What if I don't do them? Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it matters if you're alive and you feel like you're not doing what you want to do. But
maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what I'm feeling.
Just go and you just do what you want to do. I think I'm a big believer in people doing what they want to do. You know, I don't believe in suicide. I think that shit's coming fast enough at us anyway.
Exactly.
People must be pretty goddamn miserable when they kill themselves, and I'm sure they are. You know, if I was facing some kind of jail time or something, I can't say that I wouldn't be brought to the brink of that. Or some sort of horrific natural disaster where to live life was more suffering than to die. You know? I don't know how the fuck people survived the goddamn holocaust and stuff like that. You look at that, people coming out. There was a story the other day of this woman wearing 2 left shoes for like 5 years.
Really?
Just talking about just the weird clothes she had to wear, and then seeing piles of bodies. Just her spirit. I actually think I would have been broken, like, long before her. You know, I would have just fucking grabbed some German's fucking throat, and he would have just shot me in the head, or, you know. I would have. I don't think I could have endured what she endured. And I thought, well, you know, people's power to survive is incredible.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I have that.
What is that book? Have you read Viktor Frankl? It's he wrote about the Holocaust, and he was I can't remember which camp he was at, but he was there, and he wrote about it, and he survived somehow, but he just wrote about the conditions and everything. I can't remember the name of the book, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, and I've heard someone mention that book to me before. I know the one you're talking about. It might have been you, but someone did say I should read that. And I will. Richard Frankel?
Viktor
Viktor
Frankl.
Frankl, yeah. That sounds great. No, I mean, we live pretty good times. I mean, we've got Trump, and we hope he doesn't blow up the fucking world or create drop a nuclear bomb in the middle of Tehran so he can suspend general elections and declare martial law and be president forever, so he can create the
You heard it here first.
create the banana republic that he really wants.
Yes, exactly.
We hope that doesn't happen. We hope that the institutions hold, and that he loses by the same margin he won by, and that they pry his fucking chubby little fingers off the fucking desk in the Oval Office and boot his ass out into fucking jail and out of the street, not into jail where he belongs. We hope that happens.
Yes, we hope that we're not slouching towards Bethlehem.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I think he probably has 30 or 40% of that base, that solid base. Those people are going to get nasty. I think if we're a bunch of liberals who think, he's going to go quietly, or they're going to go, we've got another thing coming. That 37% base, or whatever the hell it is, of hardcore Trumpites, they're not going to go quietly into that good night. They're going to rage against the dying of light. Then they're armed, and they're angry, and they're going to feel like it's a bunch of liberal bastards and lying media. And I think
Let's not forget how immoral we are.
Yeah, well, I think in a year's time from now, when it becomes clear that Trump is going to lose, he's either going to start a war and create geopolitical chaos, or his mob is going to be out on the fucking streets, stoning every fucking lesbian couple in a Super Bowl they can find. No, I think it's going to be a goddamn nightmare.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really ugly.
Well, okay, yeah, no, yeah. I hope.
I think we'll live through it, but
I
think it could be bad.
Yeah. Do you think you would? So, America, Trump, this. Do you think about staying in America the rest of your life? Because I don't think about staying here the rest of my life.
Well, I mean, if Trump gets reelected, I've said that I want to go somewhere else. And whether or not that will actually happen, I don't think he'll get reelected. But I didn't think he'd get elected the first time. Nobody did. But I think that was a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Tampering and
insanity.
A lot of Sanders supporters could not vote for Hillary. A lot of people I know voted Libertarian and Green Party. And then the Russians tinkered, and then the gerrymandering.
Yeah.
It was like a perfect storm. Got him into office.
Yeah. Do you have a British passport?
No, I have an American passport.
Oh, but you were born there.
I am still a citizen of the UK.
Oh, you still are.
Yeah,
Are you still?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm fine to go back there. If I wanted to go back there, I could go back there. I like America. I believe in America. I'm more patriotic than that asshole. I actually love this country. So I have no intentions of abandoning it to the likes of him anytime soon. I'll stay here and fight the good fight first, but that may encounter something that none of us can imagine yet.
Do you think that you're more of a patriot because of your experience going back and forth between Britain and here?
Yeah, possibly.
As you mentioned, that freedom of
Yeah, I mean, America's a great idea. I mean, it's had its problems since its inception. Genocide of the native people and enslavement of African people. It's far from perfect, and especially at its inception. But having said that, it was formed at a time when there was emperors and kings and shoguns. I think it's a pretty good place, and I think that we've had some great days fighting fascism and Adolf Hitler.
Do you think our best days are behind us?
No, I think our best days are ahead of us. I believe in this country. I mean, I think one day there'll be free electricity, free rent, no homelessness. But I think liberalism is going to win. I have no doubt about that. There's no vision in these assholes. There's nowhere for them to go except for to choke on their own filth and take us down with them. And that may happen, but I hope not. I don't think it will. I mean, I really believe, I'm an optimist, I'm a futurist. I believe, that there will be space travel and, we'll probably travel out in the stratosphere during our lifetime.
I can't wait till they send some people to Mars.